The City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas will meet in a regular meeting at City Hall. The council chamber is located at 1716 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, Texas, on Tuesday, April 18th at 6:30 p.m. If you stand for the invocation, please. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of the community. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call from my right, please.
Foster here.
Key here.
LaRue here.
Evans here.
Y'all's here. We have a quorum. Citizens' comments, limited to 3 minutes. The purpose of this item is to allow citizens an opportunity to address the City Council on items that are listed on the agenda or issues that are not listed on the agenda. Any person desiring to make a public comment must first sign in at the podium at least 10 minutes prior to the start of the meeting and be recognized by the presiding officer. Individual citizens' comments are limited to 3 minutes. The presiding officer may ask the citizen to hold their comment on an agenda item until that agenda item is discussed. The City Council has no obligation to respond in any matter to comments or questions from the public. Any response from a member of the City Council to non-agenda comments is limited to a statement of specific factual information, a recital of existing policy, or direction to staff for follow-up. The presiding officer shall have the authority to provide a verbal warning and/or excuse from the meeting a speaker who uses abusive, harassing, threatening, or defamatory language, or who engages in disorderly conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of a meeting. All right, first speaker for tonight is Mr. Marcus Edwards. Okay. Nate Richards. If you'll go to the podium, tell us your name and your address. And
yes, sir. My name is Nate Richards. I'm actually an attorney from Athens. My clients have a property here in Gun Barrel City, 111 Marina Drive. They were out of town today, so they couldn't make it. I'm here about the proposed rescinding of a re-plat for the Burtons. And basically the whole point of the matter is the HOA is trying to get the planning and zoning and city council to basically do their bidding. If they wanted this to be done, they should go to a court, get a judge and jury to determine it. It's kind of interesting how this has been replatted for 14 months, and the only time that they're making an issue out of it is when my clients are trying to sell their property. So that doesn't seem exactly fair. If you look at the governing documents of the HOA, there's nothing in there, you can't find it, saying that you can't combine and replat 2 lots. It's just not there. So I'm not really sure why this is such a huge issue. My clients even got verbal permission from the HOA management company to do what they did. So again, looking at the governing documents, they can do it. They went through the proper processes. So we're asking that you deny the rescission of the replat.
thank you, sir. Gary Damiano.
Good evening. My name's Gary Damiano. I live at 335 Autumnwood Trail, Gun Barrel City. Talking about Project 334 tonight. I want to state, initially when this project first came to light, I was in favor of it. It was a $12 million project. It looked like it was very viable. It looked like it was obviously needed down at that end of the city. But some things have changed. The project is gone. The project is gone at this point. The EDC in the city has about $1.2 million in land in the project. They have $500,000 in a loan. If they approve this loan tonight, we're going to be at about 2.2 total, $2,200,000 in the project. At one time, the project, as I said, at $12 million, seemed like a reasonable, desirable, and viable project. I'm questioning whether that's the case today at 20 or 25 million. I'm also questioning as to whether anybody has gone back and taken a look at the numbers and taken a look at the project to make sure that it is still a viable and desirable project. One of the problems I'm having with this is that there was a perception that the EDC was a partner in this project. And as per the last meeting, it turned out that the EDC is not on the limited partnership for the project. This current loan that's in process right now that you're voting on tonight is being made to YNS. I had a conversation with the Economic Development Director and specifically asked why the rush and why the loan. What I was told was that they're making the loan to YNS to make YNS look better on paper to investors. They're making the loan to YNS to show that the city is solidly behind the project. And I was also told that YNS doesn't need the money. So those are what I was told. In this market, you've got rising interest rates, you've got a questionable economy, you've got the fact that Gun Barrel City is a secondary market, and you've got the fact that Gun Barrel City doesn't appear to be doing anything to attract visitors to this hotel. I don't know when that's going to happen. My suggestion, as you review this thing, I would suggest that you send it back to the EDC, have them redo it, have them reevaluate it. By the same token, maybe you wanted, if it comes out that it's a viable project, maybe you want to turn around and redo the performance agreement. Make the loan to Pier 334. And that can be done because the EDC is not a partner on it, as opposed to YNS. The only other concern I have on that, and I will state this, is that in the original loan agreement, it stated that the loan goes to YNS and other entities. I don't know who the other entities are. I don't know how those other entities are determined. So that's a question I think you guys really ought to ask yourself. But going back to what I said about the performance agreement, make it to Pier 334, because there's no guarantee, other than the performance agreement between YNS and the EDC, that the
Thank you,
Pier
Mr. Damiano.
334 board will live up to the agreement. To the
Mr.
performance
Damiano, your
agreement.
time's up, sir. Thank you.
It's just a question. Anyhow, those are my thoughts.
Thank you,
and I
Mr.
appreciate
Damiano. Your time is up, sir.
it. I just said I'm wrapping it up.
Thank you. Jay Brunson?
Hello, my name is Jay Burson. I live at 105 Gale Drive here in Gun Barrel City. Before I start my comments, I just wanted to say that in the last the last 5 months, I've seen the Gun Barrel Police Force patrolling regularly and slowing citizens down on the main drag. And I've talked to a few of the officers. And the change is noted, and it's greatly appreciated, and I just wanted to tell them thank you. Okay, on with the concerns. As a concerned citizen voter, I feel that all new business items except 2A are all controversial or have a hidden agenda item for our community. I hope I'm wrong, but it sure seems this way. 2B is unethical behavior by a councilman. Appears to be directed at one council member up for election. 2C, Parks Board, another issue. Appears rules apply in some situations and not to others. And 2D, the animal shelter issue comes up conveniently the last council meeting before Gun Barrel election to discredit some and add advantage to others. 2E, Electrical Arts Festival issue comes up conveniently the last council meeting before the Gun Barrel election to discredit some and add advantage to others. 2F, hiring a public relations firm for misinformation. Appears that misinformation has come from City Hall and the citizens too. The citizens have to dig and try to pry to get factual information to be fully informed. The citizens of Gun Barrel don't have public funds to hire a public information firm to fight back against misinformation on their behalf. Under the Economic Development 4E, $500,000 loan to YNS is another story. To end my comments within 3 minutes or less, I have summarized my information. I have been house to house in this area registering voters and asking their opinion and concerns. I feel my comments reflect the community and are warranted and felt by the majority of the community and the majority of the community. You are all elected officials and all want change for the community. Is this what the majority of the community wants? This is the big question. Thank you for your time and attention. Are there any questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lana Aaron's.
Lana Aarons, 334 Schooner Road. Thank you for taking an interest in compliance with the Public Records Act. I filed an open records request about community center plans and got items back from almost everyone except one council member. It's the same person who refuses to return my emails and phone calls. I'll let you guess who that is. Since it says his name, you will remove me, which is my constitutional rights are being violated. Anyway. Although he claimed to have no emails about the community center, other people sent me emails written by him explaining how confused he was, and he just didn't understand, and he complained about the other city council members. Same actions we see on his Facebook account regularly, taking credit for things he did not do and blaming others for things they didn't do. His refusal to provide emails when he disparages fellow council members is irrelevant, as he will not be on council after we vote him out on May 6th. Although, since he's part of your gang, I bet this isn't about his noncompliance. I'm gonna guess it's about someone else not providing the kind of documents you want. I brought many concerns to the Texas Attorney General about violations of the Open Meetings Act, like how y'all get together at Hector's after council and board meetings to complain about constituents, holding you accountable, and disparage specific board and council members. I've also brought up violations of the Public Records Act. Violations of this nature are not ethics violations. In fact, they are legal matters that must be handled with the county courts. You do not have the power to punish, suspend, or remove council members. Only the voters can do that through a recall election. We're voting next Monday to clear out the corruption. Speaking of corruption, if you pass this $500,000 loan to YNS tonight, we, the voters of Gun Barrel City, will stop you. We've got a team with us tonight to help keep you from purging our money before you exit the state or the country. On another note, you can't shut us down with a public relations firm. You already tried that with a fake volunteer with the non-existent Gun Barrel City Animal Shelter. We see right through you. There are no volunteers. We called, we asked to volunteer, and we were told it's not a thing. You operate in secrecy and send fake people to the Gun Barrel City Watch Group to pose as one of us. You're so full of lies. And that's why there isn't an agenda packet tonight. You have no proof available for the public to review about your claims. You said the plans for the community center were leaked, yet they were not the final plans. But then again, we're not paying for more, meaning they are the final plans. And you don't want community input. You are attempting to take our pavilion, the only free covered space to gather in Gun Barrel City. We don't believe your words. A PR firm run by the spouses of members and employees of the EDC
Thank you, Ms.
not be
Aarons.
paid with our tax dollars to cover up lies and manipulation. Gross legal violation.
Thank you, Ms. Aaron. Laura Young.
Good evening. My name's Laura Young. I live at 262 Overlook Trail. This evening, I'm speaking to thank council very much for reinstating or considering reinstating the Parks Board for our city. I want to thank you for considering the 6 applicants that have applied and will have your information, and I hope that you consider them for appointment. I look forward to seeing this talented group of energetic people to come and support, provide support for our city staff and workers. Thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Neil Casson.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Neil Cassan, and I live at 150 Marina Drive in the Harbor Light Villas subdivision. I'm a director with the Harbor Light Villas HOA. I want to thank you for allowing myself and others who will be speaking to address the council and to vehemently oppose the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission to recommend continuing with the replat of the lots located at 109 and 111 Marina Drive into one lot. I'd like to begin by clearly stating that the attorney representing the Burtons at last week's Planning and Zoning Commission, and who's here tonight, was both incorrect and untruthful in his statements, which may have improperly informed the commission's decision. In particular, the attorney first told the commission that this whole exercise is a last-minute ploy by the HOA, 14 months after the fact, all after the HOA sat on its hands until the Burtons decided to sell their properties. This is a complete misrepresentation. The timeline on page 4 of the information packet that was delivered to each of you, which your own city staff will acknowledge as being accurate, shows that as soon as the HOA found out about the replat in mid-2022, we began a dialogue with the city to understand how it could be legally possible to have a replat in a deed-restricted community approved without any notification to residents or the HOA from either the Burtons or the city. After months of ongoing discussions and communication, the city acknowledged that it had erred in its lack of notification and advised of the opportunity to readdress the issue this month, which we're here doing now. The attorney next told the commission that the HOA's management company, specifically Mr. John Utley of Inside Association Management, told the Burtons that the replat was okay and said it wouldn't be a problem before they submitted the replat request to the city. Another completely misleading argument. Mr. Utley can't be here tonight because he is ill, but he has sent a written statement to the city where he tells you that the Burtons only contacted him after the replat had already been approved by the city. During that after-the-fact discussion, Mr. Utley did tell the Burtons that he did not see anything that explicitly prohibits replats within our documents, but he did not give them HOA approval, nor did he have the authority to do so. And finally, the attorney told the commission that there is nothing in the HOA's governing documents which says that lots cannot be combined, and that the HOA's arguments to the contrary were vague, unsubstantiated references to things that don't really exist in our CC&Rs. The extremely limited discussion by the Planning and Zoning Commission members following public comment seemed to buy into that general argument. And I will acknowledge that there is indeed nothing that explicitly says that lots cannot be combined within our governing documents. But it strains credulity, common sense, logic, and insults all of our intelligence to argue that just because it is not explicitly prohibited by name, that it therefore must be allowed. In fact, other speakers will demonstrate point by point how the replat does violate our CC&Rs, both within the text and context of the documents. And these are not vague, misguided arguments, they are facts.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chris McAllister.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Chris McAllister, and I live at 176 Marina Drive in the Harbor Lot Villas subdivision. I am a director with the Harbor Lot Villas HOA and serve as board president. As Mr. Cassan indicated earlier, our CC&Rs do not directly state that lots cannot be combined. However, it defies logic to therefore state that lots can be combined. To give an analogy, the CC&Rs do not directly state that an owner cannot build a nightclub on their lot. Yet there are several general provisions in the governing documents which clearly would prohibit this. The same is true with regards to the ability to replat 2 lots into one. The single most direct violation of the CCNRs comes from Article 5.2, as amended by Amendment Number 1, which is highlighted with a green tab in the copy of the CCNRs that we have provided to y'all. This article specifically says that each lot shall be improved with the residents. There is no ambiguity in this language, and there's absolutely no other translation in the language used in our CCNRs. Even if one were to argue that once replatted, there is now only one lot, that would ignore the facts that lots are defined in our governing documents as elements of the property, and the property is further defined by subdivision plats in the Henderson County records, specifically referenced within our CCNRs and amendments. These plats that were indeed in effect at the time Mr. and Mrs. Burton bought their 2 properties clearly contained 2 lots at 109 and 111 Marina Drive. Lastly, the board cannot even unilaterally add or remove property from the subdivision plat without a majority vote of the owners. So it is ridiculous on its face to assume that an individual owner can be allowed to do so, even in this case where the Burtons own both lots, because of the fact that each of these lots are part of the Henderson County recorded subdivision plat, and changing it impacts all of the owners within. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Ken Peterson.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Ken Peterson. I live at 128 Marina Drive in Harbor Light Villas subdivision. I'm a director with the Harbor Light Villas Board and serve as the secretary. In addition to the direct violations of the CCNRs that Mr. McCall has discussed, the concept of a replat and the mechanism by which the Burtons went about seeking the replat also directly violates Articles 6.1 and 7.2 of our CCNRs. These articles are highlighted in red tab on the copy of the CCNRs provided to the council. And they explicitly state that no modifications to any part of the property or to the use of the property, which said includes lots 109, 111 Marina Drive, as previously noted, can be made without approval of the HOA via its Architectural Control Committee. This is a direct violation of the CCNRs because they specifically say that the use of a lot in the property is for a construction of a residence, as noted by Mr. McAllister earlier. The Burtons themselves also directly violated the CCNRs by making no such request for a modification, which he knew would be denied because it was violating the CCNR's use requirements. In fact, to further elaborate on the deliberate and willful actions the Burtons took to avoid getting approval, Mr. Burton specifically mentioned to me in passing that he was considering such action sometime in late 2021. And I personally told him at that time that he absolutely needed to take this to the HOA board. He did not. By attesting to the city that the replat did not violate any existing covenants or restrictions in their replat request, the Burtons signed with full knowledge that they were not following the covenants or restrictions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Madison Job.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Madison Job. I live at 166 Marina Drive in Harbor Light Villas subdivision. I am a director of the HOA and serve as board treasurer. I'd like to talk for just a minute about the requirement to pay dues. Article 8.10.1 and Article 9 of CCNRs, which are highlighted with the blue tab on the copy that was provided, specifically discuss the fact that the owner of each lot is responsible for paying dues on each lot, and that each lot is liable for its equal share of all the applicable types of assessments. I also reiterate that has been stated earlier that each lot is defined by the subdivision plat and the revisions specifically referenced in the CCNRs, which will always include the addresses of 109 and 111 Marina Drive that were purchased by the Burtons. While failure to pay dues on both of the original lots as a result of the replat, it is not directly an argument about the ability to have a replat, I understand that, but it does speak to the Burtons' intent all along. The Burtons originally told the Planning and Zoning Commission that they wanted to replat both lots into one so they could expand an outdoor kitchen onto their second lot. But as soon as the replat was originally approved, however, without the notification from the Burtons or the city, they stopped paying dues on the property at 109 Marina Drive. And they have never made any modifications or any improvement to the property at all. It appears plain to the HOA and residents that the sole reason for the Burtons' replat was to avoid paying dues on a lot which they purchased with a covenant to pay dues, and that covenant runs with the property. Our community is a small one with only 30 lots that are platted. They're all improved with residents as directly required by the CCNRs, in which we're all required to pay dues to support the subdivision's maintenance and upkeep and amenities. There are significant costs for the HOA, which have to be spread across these 30 lots. While all costs are important, there's one in particular that is directly tied to each lot, and it shows how selfish the Burtons have been. Specifically, the CCNRs require the HOA to conduct yard maintenance for each lot, including single-family residents. By not paying dues on both lots, the Burtons expect the HOA to essentially cover the cost of 2 lots while only paying for 1. While many of these arguments about the dues may not be directly related to the arguments about approving the replat, they are certainly related to the result by the requirements of our CCNRs and not in keeping what was represented to the Planning and Zoning Commission or to City Council in 2022 when this was first presented. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Al Solis?
Good evening, members of the council and mayor. My name is Al Solis, and I live at 170 Marina Drive in the Harbor Lights subdivision. I'm a director on the HOA board, and I serve as the board's vice president. I know that HOAs can get a bad reputation for being money-hungry monstrosities that milk money from residents and enforce ridiculous and overbearing restrictions on owners. I also know that people may automatically think that since Harbor Light Villas is a lakefront development, it must be full of ultra-wealthy vacation homeowners who only come down on the weekends and whom money is no object. It may have even occurred to some to applaud the Burtons for doing what they did to our community. But let me tell you a little bit more about Harbor Lights, our Harbor Lights subdivision. As Mr. Job mentioned earlier, it's a community of just 30 lots, and it's supposed to say it's one of the best communities I've ever lived in. It's the best community I've ever lived in. The community is extremely close-knit, and it's run by an HOA who our primary goal is to be hands-off, with the exception of maintaining the many wonderful amenities that we enjoy in our small community. The community also, in fact, consists of approximately 50% full-timers and 50% weekenders. I also want to note that there's a huge difference in socioeconomic diversity within our community. I can attest to that as a retired Dallas police officer living on a fixed income, as well as other elderly residents in our community that are also on a very fixed income, and that in fact finances are a huge impact. We have had to pay more because of what the Burtons have done to us, and for them not even living there and wanting to sell it, they're now paying less. Once again, I realize that my comments here are not necessarily directly related to your decision today, but I felt like it was important to tell you that this is not a monstrous HOA, but it's a fair, hardworking community who often get together as individuals, pulling weeds, digging out trees, trimming trees, and doing all these tasks so we can afford to live in our community and keep our costs down. And by what the Burtons have done, it has made it even harder than what it has been in the past. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir. I'm going to mispronounce your name, Margartha Garvin? I'm sorry? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Margreta Gervin, and I live at 158 Marina Drive in the Harbor Lights Villas subdivision. While I'm not a board member, I am an extremely concerned homeowner who would like to add one closing argument to what has previously been presented. The Burton's attorney argued at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that the HOA's arguments are simply an HOA dispute and should be a matter for a court of law, not for the city in a replat discussion. While I hope that our board members have fully convinced you that the replat absolutely violates our existing covenants and restrictions, and therefore should not be approved as a matter of law, I want to make one final point. Even if you agree that the arguments are better suited for a court of law, the HOA's arguments are valid. And in this particular case, the original status quo should be maintained rather than the council taking an affirmative stance against the HOA by approving the replat. This concept is even indirectly incorporated into the city ordinances and state law by requiring a 75% vote threshold to approve a replat when a protest has been lodged. On behalf of myself and the many members of our community who are here tonight, as well as the many neighbors who were not able to attend this meeting but did send in letters to the Council of Support, please vote tonight to rescind the replat. A replat which was clearly in violation of our CC&Rs, and a replat process that, due to the lack of the required notification, did not allow for a proper protest before the approval was granted. Please vote tonight to maintain our subdivision plats as they are currently defined in our CC&Rs, and thus restoring the status quo. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Ann Mullins?
Good evening. Ann Mullins. I live at 240 Lynn Bay Drive. I'm here to speak in support of the Pier 334 project. As you may recall, I served on the committee that did the comprehensive plan that was just finished and is now the plan that we go by. And the feedback that was derived from that plan is that most of the shoreline is private residence, that there's not entertainment, there's not restaurants, there's not retail that's on the waterfront. So part of that plan was that we created a special district. It's called the Lakeview District, and it's new. It's new to our city, and it's intended to be a mixed-use district where we would get those things that are missing. The waterfront dining, the waterfront retail, and recreation. So this project that came along, I don't believe we could find a project that better fits the description that we created for the Lakeview District. And would like for you to consider that as you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mullins. Mr. Willis? Mr. Willis? You're good? Okay. All right. Thank y'all. The consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Consider approving the following reports: City Manager, Code Enforcement, Court, EDC March 14th, 2023 minutes, Fire, Permits and Inspections, Police Dispatch, and Animal Control, previous meeting minutes, February 28th, 2023, Streets and Park Maintenance. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? No. Vote for my right, please.
Boss, yes.
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Gause, yes. 2A, discuss and/or take action, consider a request from Barbara Baker to minimize the accrued lien amount on Lot 40 in the Loon Bay subdivision. Mr. City Manager?
Well, as you can see in the background of this item, that in 1988, a lien was filed with a total of $648. Over the past 35 years, with the annual interest rate of 10% accrual, the grand total now on that lot is $18,210.38. That piece of property is not worth that amount of money. In order for that piece of property to be developed, it would require to be economically feasible for someone to purchase that lot. It would have to be at a considerably less lien total. So Ms. Baker is requesting that we reduce, minimize the accrued loan or the accrued lien on that amount on Lot 40. I think that's a reasonable request. If we do not reduce the lien amount on that piece of property, it quite simply will probably never be developed.
Okay. Council, can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to discuss or take action to consider a request from Barbara Baker to minimize the accrued lien amount on Lot 40 in the Loon Bay subdivision.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Is Ms. Baker here tonight? Can we ask questions?
Absolutely.
Ms. Baker, under what conditions did you acquire this property where this lien was not made known to you when you made the purchase? You can repeat the question to her. I'm okay with that.
That's fine.
That's fine.
In 2007, obtained the property from the independent school district here at Macon. And there was no lien mentioned at that time or anything. We have the documentation with us, and I believe you guys have a copy as well. Yes, and we even asked and everything, and we sold the property, and we retrieved the property back 2 times already. And there was never a mention of a lien any of those times.
Did y'all go through a title company when y'all did this?
And the first time, yes. The other 2 times, that was, it was one of their friends, and they got sick, passed, and things like that. We took the property back.
The reason why I'm asking these questions is that I would imagine that a title company's due diligence would include looking for these exact things. And I'm just, and again, open-minded to doing whatever the council wants to do as a group. I'm just curious as to how a title company missed this, or was a title company involved in actually transacting this, which is,
Absolutely. And we thought that with the school district, you know, the school district selling it to us as well. And that was before,
right.
you know, and that's what we wanted to know. We were like,
And again, not to interrupt you, but again, I appreciate what you're saying, not to interrupt you, but I want to be clear in my question so that I don't leave the wrong impression. I'm not asking whether or not the school district let y'all know, because I don't really know what their obligation is to do that, but I do know that I believe I know that a title company's responsibility would include performing the due diligence to scrutinize whether or not this lien or any liens existed, and to inform of those at the time of a transaction. I remain curious as to how something so fundamental as that got missed. Okay, and again, I'm not holding that against you, but that explains why this fundamental process didn't happen as explained.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
Her and my father, which is passed now, and that's one of the reasons she's a widow, and she's on a very fixed income. She works 3 jobs to try to pay for what she has, and she is trying to sell the property because she cannot afford the property. She cannot afford, she lives on a property the house is enchanted and all of the things, and she is trying to make money so that she can afford to buy something or move in with us. And with this, I mean, we know the property is what she needs. And all of that, so that's what she's here for, because she needs to, now that she's on her own income with 3 jobs and working around the clock, that's what she is looking at, trying to get this minimized so that she can sell it.
Thank you for your answers.
Mr. City Manager, what is your definition of minimize? What are we talking about here?
Well, I look at the initial lien was for $640. It appears that the city did some clearing of that property in 1988, which amounted to about 29 hours worth of work. That work was done, even though it might have been done 40 years ago. The city did expend costs. Obviously, 40 years ago, the cost of labor at that rate was much less than it is today. I think that's up to the council to decide what they would believe would be a reasonable price for the work that was tendered 40 years ago, nearly 40 years ago.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Council, do I hear a recommendation?
I'd like to ask one more question.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
You mentioned that there's seven, am I correct, 7 other liens?
Yes, because, and the 7 other liens are just a Gary Baker, not my father.
Right, and I appreciate that. What's the value of those other 7 liens in total?
One is,
No, the total of them, just approximately. Not including this lien of $18,000 to Gun Barrel, what's the grand total approximately of the other 7?
around 375,000.
And the value of the lot is?
18,000.
All right. Mr. Foster, you were about to say something?
Well, this sheds a light on this, but I was going to suggest that if we're just talking about the city, that in order to minimize the accrued lien amount, I would suggest a modest amount of like $500, but I can't speak to the other issue that you brought up.
And if I can make a recommendation.
Yes, sir.
We have expended, I think the paying the original money that was owed to the city, the $640, even though that doesn't necessarily come anywhere near the accrued interest rate that has really caused this to exponentially increase. But, we still place liens on properties. So getting the money that was owed to the city, even albeit 35 years ago, that is still making the city whole from a monetary perspective.
Could I hear a motion to that account to reduce it down to the original balance of $648?
I so move.
Second.
A motion to second. Any further discussion? Vote for my right.
Yeah, Foster, yes.
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Y'all's yes.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. We'll reduce it down to $648.
Just see him after.
Let's see, item 2B, discuss and/or take action regarding unethical behavior by a council member for refusing to comply with the Public Information Act. We received a call from the Attorney General's office regarding refusal to fulfill a Public Information Act. Do I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to discuss and/or take action regarding unethical behavior by a council member for refusing to comply with the Public Information Act.
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. This had to deal with a Public Information Act from a citizen for Mr. Foster. Mr. Foster, you're aware of what we're talking about, I'm assuming?
Well, I am now.
Okay. Well, I think you were when you got your packet, weren't you?
I
So,
have a statement that I'd like to read.
and as I said, we got on April 18th, we got a call from the Attorney General's office, and then on the, looks like on the 12th, there was a follow-up. Excuse me, we got a call on the 12th, and on the 18th, there was a follow-up. Yeah, I don't know. We just passed our ethics here just recently. In that discussion, we said that any investigation would be done by the council. So I would entertain a motion to have a special meeting to do the investigation of this and see what we come out of it. But I think the most important part is that we are responsible for answering our public information request. It's not the duty of someone else to do that for us, and I think everybody's probably aware of that. So can I hear such a motion?
Do we need to rescind the first?
No, that's okay. It's to discuss and/or take action, so
Okay.
we're good.
I move that city council audit this information, do an internal.
And thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I have a statement that I'd like to add to the minutes for this discussion this evening.
I'm sorry?
I have a statement that I would like to add to the minutes of this item tonight.
Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you. I'll just add it to the minutes. Thank you.
Pardon?
I'd just like to get it added to the minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I'd like to add that the Public Information Act is a state law, correct?
That is correct. Public Information Act is a state law, as is the Texas OMA. And to my knowledge, this is the first time as my tenure as mayor that I've been notified that we have had the Attorney General's office call us for anything. So if it's happened, I've not been made aware of it. Any further discussion?
Well, you can't share what the AG office said.
Well, the AG office just said they received a complaint on Mr. Foster for not fulfilling a public information request and made it known to the city secretary that it would be up to the city to have to fulfill that request, whatever means possible that we needed to do. And so it forced us to enact something that, to my knowledge, we haven't done before, which was the process that we go through for pulling information off of the server, and which caused the city manager and two other employees that have to sign off on that in order for that act to happen. And so it just caused the city additional funds and additional time to go in and get the information, which there was plenty of information there to be gathered. So, but that's what it was. And then they called back to verify that we had done so. That was the second call, in which we had.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a couple of comments if I could say them. The public information request by the individual asked for two things. All emails, both city and personal, that had been sent and received that mentions a name and our board position on the EDC, as well as all text messages sent or received that mention all names on the EDC. The question that I had was, what official business is the basis of this request? City business means that any authorized work or activity performed by the city employee or by other persons on behalf of the city. I responded twice to the city secretary. One, all of my correspondence related to this matter is posted on the city email server to which this lady had access. And secondly, I had no personal information on emails or text message to provide for my home computer or phone. Now, if you disagree with this response, I have one question. How did you get any additional information? I request all the correspondence that I referenced to be made part of this public record, and I'll do so today. But is this an unethical response? No. I quote the mayor, "Code of ethics are for the governing body and for the boards to adhere to and see over." Additionally, In this 28th February minutes that the mayor stated, it is the council's responsibility. Nowhere in the Code of Ethics is public information request mentioned. There's not in the purview of the council and should be referred to the state attorney general. In addition, no council response methodology has been developed to evaluate and respond to any ethics violation complaint. The PIR was addressed. If this answer is insufficient, if the request deems an insufficient answer be received, a complaint can be filed by any citizen with the state attorney general, any citizen. No council authority is necessary for a citizen to do such. The right is important for all citizens to know. You do not have to go through the council to file a complaint, so that's what it says. In the background, this is a result of an email I sent the EDC director asking for the board to address a highly offensive email this individual sent to a local citizen. The email used the F word and mentioned the recipient's daughter. I found that to be highly offensive, and I questioned it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. I will correct you on a couple of things there. One, the person who's submitted the open records request does not have access to the email server. A board member doesn't have access to our email server. The only people that have access to the email server is the city manager. And he does so with witnesses by other officers of the city. And as far as what business of the city, your definition is inaccurate. Any and all emails on the city server is considered business. And I'll ask the city attorney to correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Well, let me first say, I mean, there's no expectation of privacy on anything on the city server. So any email that goes through the city server is subject to disclosure. I think that's widely known. When you talk about personal devices, an official, elected official, or city employee, information on a public device, or excuse me, on a personal device in order to be public information must concern official city business. The definition of official city business is any matter over which the governing body has any authority, administrative duties, or advisory duties. So that is the definition of official business. That would be the standard that would be applied to any information on a personal device to deem whether or not that information is public information or not.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, the individual's name that I'm referring to on the city web server was for emails that were sent originating by this individual or had a response from various city council members, including you, to that individual. There's nothing there that I would imply that this individual or anyone else has access to our server unless they receive or send emails through it. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Well, I just wonder, you didn't have anything to put in the packet?
No, ma'am. I mean, I got the transcripts today from the Attorney General's office. So
Okay.
that was what I would like to have put in there. Any further discussion?
I'm a little confused still. I'm under the impression that when we receive an open records request, we have to comply with it.
That's correct.
Well, yeah.
Is there any wiggle room on that? I mean, the law is the law.
The law's the law. The way I understood it, it makes no difference who has, I mean, yes, sir, the law's the law.
So we do have a code of ethics, but if we didn't have a code of ethics, the law still states that we have to comply with the Open Records
That is
Act.
correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
So what are we going to do, set up a special meeting?
Yes, ma'am. That's what we said we would do in the conversation when we passed the ethics, code of ethics, so. Hearing no further discussion, vote from my right, please.
Foster, no.
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, no.
Yaws, yes.
Item 2C, discuss and to take action to interview candidates for the Park Board and consider making appointments. Ms. Amy Stone?
Good evening. My name's Amy Stone on 138 Stillwater Street. I am applying for the Park Board member. I'm a family member, I have donated my time with Tamarack, and I don't know what you guys all want to know, but I'm kind of.
Well, if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be on the Park Board, that'd be great.
I do love animals, and so I do like the dog park. I have kids, I have grandkids, I have 3 and 1 on the way. And so I see what the park used to be, and I would like to see the park even more. And, I've seen it when the park was full and, out there and everything. I'm sorry, I'm so nervous. I didn't expect to be so nervous. But the park used to be full with kids playing at the baseball fields when I was young. I've been, living here for 27 years. And when I first went there, the park was full with kids playing and everything. You don't see that now. I mean, once in a while, you'll see the basketball players, playing ball or whatever. You'll see the girls out at the pavilion, which will, really be sad if you guys turn around and do something with that, because I see, the Derby girls out there working hard, playing, people doing picnics, and that's the only shade that's out there for them. But, I mean, I just have stuff to offer, opinions, and stuff, and I think it would be one of those things that you guys.
Thank you.
Ms. Stone, did you and I meet at the Tamarack event a few weeks ago?
Yes.
Can I ask you to just share who your father is and what his relationship was with Gun Barrel City a few years ago?
So my father was Carl Hockett. He was, yes, don't make me cry. Yes, my father's Carl Hockett. He passed away, and he was a fire department volunteer. He loved it. He was a police officer, not a police officer, but a dispatcher for the police department at Gun Barrel City. And I started volunteering just recently, it's been 2 years, Laura, for Tamarack. And, I help with the events and stuff there. And so I figured out, well, why not? You guys are trying to open a board, and expand. And so I figured that I could just help and volunteer some time doing that.
For the record, I think your father would be very proud.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, which name do you prefer, Stone, or I also see you under Summers?
Summers is my maiden name, so I answer to both.
Okay, and then on social media, I've noticed that you're unhappy with the city, or you express.
I'm not unhappy. I want more for the city. I see potential in the city, and what I've seen, on social media and stuff like that, I try to stay distant from it, but, sometimes it draws you in. But I see potential in Gun Barrel City. I've been here for, like I said, 27 years, and we've made a big difference in Tamarack with April Burns, and I honestly think that we can do more.
Ms. Stone, do you see any problem with you working with the city staff?
No, sir. I'm a people person. I'm a full-time mom. I work full-time, and I volunteer, like I said, with Tamarack, and if you guys turn around and, pick me, I will volunteer and put my heart into this as well.
Super. Any further questions, council? All right. Thank you, Ms. Stone.
Thank you.
James Slack. James Slack.
Good evening.
Good evening. Introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, everybody. I'm James Slack. Like Amy, I live in Tamarack. I have 2 school-age kids. I work locally. I work full-time also. I do a lot of work in the parks in Tamarack. I do several hours a month in their parks. I do a lot of maintenance. I've made several improvements to the parks. And when someone approached me about this, being on this board, I thought, sure, I'll give it a shot. Can't be any worse than nobody.
How did you hear about the openings?
I believe Ms. Laura over there asked me, introduced me to it.
And I have one more question.
Okay.
Engineers are not known for their sense of humor, although I noticed your email is amusing. What does your background bring to the park board?
Well, I do work in my own parks. Tamarack has 5 parks. And I've been doing work in Tamarack's parks for a couple of years already. Are you speaking about my engineering background or?
Any background?
Okay. Just
We are the sum of our
experience. I don't know. I've spent a
experience.
lot of time in parks in my life. I've come from I'm pretty new to this area. I've spent most of my life in larger cities. And I've been to many parks.
Thank you.
Mr. Slack, I would imagine that a park board member would have recommendations or suggestions that they would want the council to take action on or the city to take action on. What kind of ideas have you already formed, or what kind of opinions have you already kind of formed? What's your vision for the park that we haven't realized yet?
I don't have a huge vision, but I have, as Ms. Summers pointed out, there's hardly any shade there. That's my biggest thing, is the park needs more shade. And as she said, if y'all enclose the pavilion, y'all need to build another pavilion, because parents and grandparents, when they go during the hot summer months, which is when the kids have the most free time, and they take their kids to that playground generally right next to the pavilion because they want to sit in the shade in the pavilion. They're not getting to sit out in the sun. If y'all enclose that, hardly anybody's going to go to the playground. I wrote some other stuff down in preparation for last month's meeting, but I didn't have it with me tonight. I had more ideas.
And as far as no shade, do you know there's no budget for the park board?
Yes, I know that. I'm aware.
For the record, I agree with you. There needs to be more shade out there. I enjoy taking my dogs out there to the dog park, and that sun just kills me. So it's something that I'm pursuing as well. So I'm on the same page there.
Yes. I believe shade near the skate park would be good also. My kids do like the skate park. If that was larger, they would like it even more.
It was supposed to be.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Kelly Romero. Kelly Romero. Okay. Monica Damiano.
Hello, I'm Monica Damiano, 335 Autumnwood Trail, Gun Barrel City. I am the Vice President for the Beautification Committee and have been for a good many years. And with that said, I've spent a lot of time at the park. We maintain the butterfly garden, and we all have done that, all the members of the beautification. And it's been very enjoyable. I love doing that. And I have been proud to see all the improvements through the years that have been made to the park, which is, the dog park, the pickleball, and just many, many other things that have been added to the park. And I would love to be part again of that board to hopefully make some more improvements.
Questions from council?
Well, it sounds like you're a natural, but I do have a question. You were on the Parks Board before?
I was.
And resigned.
I
What brings you
did.
back?
Me and several other people did resign. When we joined the park board, we were hopeful and we thought that there might be some money that was in the bank to help us make these improvements, but there was none, and we all got discouraged. I heard you say, again, just a moment ago, that there is no money for the park board, but I'm really going to hope and push that there be some consideration so that we are not, as a park board, just doing fundraising. That's not fair. I'm willing to help with some fundraising, but there needs to be some other funds available, I believe, for our park. There's so many people that participate, and with the functions that go on at the park and everything, and I would hope that we could reach an agreement at some point to get some funds in that for the park.
Ms. Damiano, I've been associated with the beautification committee as well, and I know you guys have done wonderful things for the park.
Thank
Not
you.
only the park, but for the whole city, so I'd like to thank you for
Thank you
that.
very much.
Ms. Damiano, Mr. Slack made a comment about Ms. Stone, I believe, made a comment that there's just not a lot of use of the park. Given your history with it and the amenities that you mentioned, some of the improvements that have been made just in the last few years, what's your opinion about why there's not more activity out there? What's the thing that's not there that you think would be the turning point that would change that?
First of all, I think that it needs to be used more by things like, I would love to see the amphitheater used and there be concerts there. I would love to see a jazz festival. I would love to see just different things around the park, competitions. Those are the ways also that we could raise money to make some more improvements to the park. But I think that the playground area could be improved. I think that we could make a section for that and have more stuff for the kids to play on as one thing. I would like to see also some improvements made around the amphitheater to make it a little more welcoming.
How so, can I ask?
Bathrooms closer to the amphitheater would be nice. Landscaping, those type of things. I would also like to see improvements with the walking trail. I think it's at areas there, it's a little hard I see a lot of people walking, and a lot of it is just rock gravel. Maybe all of it is, I'm sorry, I haven't been around the whole thing. But it would be nice if we could make improvements to our walking trail.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Thank you, Ms. Damiano.
You're welcome.
Shelley Coleman? Okay. Teresa Martin? Sure.
Shelley unfortunately got stuck in South Carolina and could not make it tonight, and I just let her know that, I just told her that I would let y'all know that she is very much interested in being on the park reasons, for the same reasons that I've would want to be on it, but she would very much like to be considered as well.
Thank you. Teresa Martin? Okay. You have a motion from council?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend Amy Stone be placed on the park boards.
I second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote from our right.
Boss, yes.
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Oz, yes.
Any further motion?
I would move that we adopt this entire slate to be members of the Parks Board. I appreciate their interest and availability.
Second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt everyone.
Are we discussing?
Yes, go right ahead.
would like to speak with the three that are not here before we just adopt
Seem to
them.
be prudent.
I mean,
Mr. Foster, would you like to amend your motion?
No, I'd leave it the way it is.
All right. Any further discussion?
I'd like to make a point. I agree with Ms. Key. I'd like to meet with the other folks. I think it would be prudent.
I mean,
I think the three that are here sound like they'd be great.
Yep.
But I'd like to hear the other three as well.
all right. Hearing no further conversation, the motion on the floor is to approve all the members to be on the park board. Vote for my right, please.
Foster, yes?
Key, no.
LaRue, no.
Evans, yes.
Yawns, no.
Motion fails. Any further motions?
I'd like to make a motion to suggest that we add Mr. James Slack to the park board.
Second.
Have a motion made for Mr. Slack and a second. Any discussion? Vote for my right.
Foster, yes?
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Yawns, yes.
Any further motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we nominate Monica Damiano to the park board.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Vote for my right.
Foster, yes?
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Yawns, yes.
Sorry, almost cut you off there. Any further motions?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move on. Item 2D, discuss and/or take action to solicit bids for a complete animal control shelter. Mr. Yalls.
I put together some notes because I'd like to provide a brief update of where the animal committee has met and put together some points. But I'd also like to go over a brief timeline just for the moment to kind of remind us how we got to this point and where we would like to recommend that the city go forth. Just to start with, last year, contract negotiations between Gun Barrel and HSCCL failed to come to an agreement after a contract of $50,000 was offered by HSCCL that was voted down by the Gun Barrel City Council. When we had that meeting, we discussed that we brought forth good faith to that meeting with the belief that we could negotiate with HSCCL, given that they had recently entered into negotiations and then did decrease the value of the contract for the Kaufman, and still at our meeting refused to discuss anything having to do with that. Attempts made by Gun Barrel City shortly thereafter to contract with other shelters met with abysmal success, abysmal failure, to be quite honest. And I'm sad to say that one of the things that we found is that many of the facilities that we contacted through City Hall to attempt to make a contract or arrive at a contract with other facilities were being stifled by a group that was emailing these facilities, encouraging very strongly not to engage in a contract with Gun Barrel City, which, given that all of our efforts were to try to take care of stray and abandoned animals, it bothers me a little bit to say that I would think that the animals should come first, but that's my opinion. At the same time that this was taking place, a complaint had been filed with the state regarding the conditions of the existing pens in Gun Barrel City, and that was when we formed the Animal Advisory Committee and we established new priorities and put together a plan. And those plans have now all been completed with regard to the existing pens, and they, of course, have been back in service for quite a while now. Recently, Gun Barrel City has made new attempts to enter into a contract with HSCCL, utilizing information that we've obtained from Open Records Acts from many cities around Cedar Creek Lake and within Henderson County, in addition to other counties outside of ours. And I'm going to pause there and ask Mr. Mayor, since I know you were involved with reaching out for that information, do you have any feedback that you can share regarding the results of that records review and discussions with HSCCL?
Sure. I reached out to HSCCL and told them that I would be willing to bring to council a proposal that we would pay on a per animal basis an amount equal to any city within the county of Henderson County. I went on to talk to them a little bit about what other cities are paying. January 19th, I talked to the city of Malakoff. They pay $8,000 a year for 90 dogs. Comes out to about $89 per animal, but they do pay on an annual basis. The only city I found that did pay on an annual basis. February 23rd, I talked to the city of Toole. They pay $45 per animal. As of November, for the year of 2022, as at the end of November, they had taken in 80 animals. The city of Chandler, now they go to, the same group runs both the Athens shelter and the Toole shelter. City of Chandler takes theirs to the Athens shelter. They pay $1,500 a year, and there is no limit on the number of dogs they take to them. So that is another one that they do pay an annual fee, $1,500 a year. They were asking us to pay $49,200. Trinidad, the last numbers I had on Trinidad were provided by HSCCL. They pay $33 a month for their services, no limit on the animals. City of Eustis pays $47 a month, no limit on the number of animals. City of Log Cabin pays $95 per animal. Now, the interesting thing I found was that Van Zant County and cities within Kaufman County and cities within Navarro County, they bring in about almost 1,300 animals a year out of those counties. And Van Zant pays $65 per animal. I didn't get a price from Kearns. I didn't get a price from Kaufman. Kaufman County is no longer bringing animals in. However, the city of Kaufman is. The city of Kemp would like to. However, the city of Kemp has no place to take their animals at this time because they wouldn't pay the price that they were being asked to. So what I've asked I went back to HSCCL after they turned down my initial offer. And well, they actually came back and they wanted to know about ordinances, about registration, about requiring all citizens to chip their dogs, things of that nature. And I really felt it was inappropriate. They also wanted to know if they could train our animal control officer, who's very qualified at what she does. And if we need to train her, we'll send her to Texas A&M to be trained. But so I went back and said, hey, look, I'm offering you to pay you, I'm offering to take to council to pay you the most per dog that any city in Henderson County is being charged. And they came back and said, well, no, we don't want to do it. So we'll talk with the council after the election, meaning they believe after the election they'll get their $50,000. And that'll be just highway robbery for this city if they do, and be very disappointing. I really think that the city needs to move forward. I think they need to move forward and build their own shelter, and we have hopes that we can strike a deal with a larger city to take our animals to them. We've been successful in taking animals to other states. We've been successful in doing adoptions. We've been fairly successful in doing quite a few things. And but we need to have additional room so that we're not in a rush. Right now, we've got about 6 pens that we can put animals in, and we get help from people fostering and things of that nature. I fostered two pups a while back. So, there's a lot that goes into it, but we just need a larger building, and I think it's time for us to step up and do it and build a decent-sized shelter and not be held hostage by a group of folks that honestly have no desire to work with us.
Thank you. 2 points. The Animal Advisory Committee is now recommending at our last meeting that the Gun City build its own animal shelter facility on our own property to expand the existing operations that we have at this time. These recommendations also suggest that steps be taken to provide for full services to include adoptions so as to fill the gap that not having a contract with a local shelter has now created. There is also a recommendation that was passed forward to the city manager asking that they look into at City Hall the opportunities, the costs, and the feasibility of dog registration and chipping, but we're asking for him to come back to council with a budget to explain what that might look like for review in the financials. a final note that I wanted to include is a lot of information has been reviewed, a lot of documents, and I'm going to make it just a point of saying that the Open Records Acts for contracts with other cities, the identical contracts that Gun Barrel City has had in the past and has solicited with HSCCL, even most recently as a month ago, not one of those contracts contains any clauses or any element of the information that they are demanding that Gun Barrel City participate in before they will even talk with us. I want to say that again because I want to make my point. There is a clear delineation between what they require from any city, anywhere in East Texas, and what they are asking from Gun Barrel City. I know that they have a lot of supporters in the room, and I think that's admirable because what they do is it's an important job. But at the same time, I'm still left with the question of why does it cost hundreds of dollars more for a dog that is picked up in Gun Barrel City to be treated the same humane way at HSCCL than a dog that came from Payne Springs, 7 Points, Toole, or even Van Zandt County? What is the difference? And I've asked that question of them, and I've to date still never received an answer. And I really wish that I could hear some other people that would have that same level of curiosity to ask them, what is the difference? And hold out for a real answer. And to add to that, this last part, it is also the suggestion that Gun Barrel City residents contact our county officials to strongly recommend that they require HSCCL and the Athens Animal Rescue Services, both of which who receive county animal service funds in excess of $350,000 annually, end the practice of taking in animals from these other cities and counties outside of Henderson County. This practice, which began in 2018 and has coincided with the significant increase in stray and abandoned animals within not only Gun Barrel City, but throughout the entirety of Henderson County, that we have been addressing for 5 years now. We should demand compassion for these animals, and bringing them here from larger, more populated counties to our small communities by the truckload to have them become neglected and endangered is simply irresponsible and short-sighted. Common sense demands that we understand that bringing an unlimited number of these poor animals into our communities with a population our size was always going to lead to this outcome, and we are now debating today.
Okay, Mr. Yost, could I have a motion, please? Mr. Yost?
I make a motion that we request that the city manager begin accepting bids for construction of our own animal control facility in Gun Barrel City.
A second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, how big would the building be? You have
We have a lot of options on the table, and I would like to have a group of bids put together by the city manager to present to the council with an explanation of what that facility might look like.
Will this also include operational cost or just the building?
I believe that we would need to put together all of that into a comprehensive plan in order to run it as well. Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? Vote from my right, please.
Boss, yes?
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Yaz, yes.
Item 2E, receive and discuss preliminary findings of Electric Arts Festival investigation. Mr. City Manager,
On May 17th, 2022, the City Council of Gun Barrel City unanimously approved, quote, up to $80,000, unquote, of hotel, motel, public tax dollars to fund an event, subsequently named the Electric Arts Festival, for a weekend in November 2022, after a detailed budget analysis was presented to council by the promoter, Ms. Renee Weaver. After the conclusion of the event, expenditures and related festival costs billed to the city exceeded $189,000, an increase of over 136% of the requested budgetary funding. After all expenses and liabilities were determined, council was provided a detailed overview of all financial documents which had been obtained and/or provided by numerous vendors and subcontractors. As a result of the gross budget overruns, the City Council recommended retaining a private investigator to audit expenditures and costs related to the festival, entertainment talent, and staff hired to provide necessary support for operations. Mr. George Vassalou, president of Colonial Digital Forensics, was contracted to conduct an audit investigation into the finances of the Electric Arts Festival. He is here this evening to present a preliminary report of his findings at this point. Mr. Vassalou?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. City Manager Arnold was correct in the opening. The contract was brought forth to you all for up to $80,000. I've reviewed the finances as they've come in. It's not completely inclusive, but it is a preliminary finding. Taking the budget that was provided by the promoter, I took the categories and I applied the financials as in people who brought in invoices associated with the festival. And I did my best to put each of those financial documents into the certain categories that match the budget. And what I've come up with is of the up to $80,000 that was slated for this particular festival, a total of $189,819 was expended. That's the difference of $109,819, and that's 237.27% above what was part of the budget. And to highlight the categories in which that budget went over, for example, let's take a look at marketing. Marketing was $3,250 was part of the budget. $33,407 was actually expended, and that's 1,027% of the actual budget. I have certain categories that I was unable to fit, so we have a set of uncategorized, but most of all of the different budget categories are over 100%. Some of them are over 300% of the budgeted amount.
I think at this time, we're going to convene into executive session under Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, consultation with an attorney. Time is 7:59. Mr. Vassalou, if you'll join us, as well as the city attorney and the city manager and the city treasurer. Is she here? There she is. We will reconvene into open session. The time is 8:11. George?
I am currently at a point in my analysis and investigation that I would like to turn over some information to the city attorney if that is something acceptable.
Council have any objections to that?
No.
All right. I think it'd be prudent to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next item, item 2F. Discuss and/or take action to hire a public relation firm to address misinformation directed at staff and/or projects on social media platform. We have really run into a lot of bad information. I thought a lot of it was just a lot of just people who just thought they knew what they were saying and and didn't realize they were wrong. And then recently I found out that there's a business owner that's working with one of the candidates running for office, that's working with one of the folks that's running the Facebook page that's putting all this out. And this has taken a heavy kind of stress-ridden for the entire city to read all this misinformation that's out there. Mr. City Manager, you have any comments that you wanted to make on this?
Only that I have sent emails to city council, and I've met with city council pleading with them to please leave staff and managers out of the political discussion. The relentless criticism and continuous posting of disingenuous information regarding city operations, projects, and staff performance has had an adverse effect on the efficiency of our service delivery. Enlisting assistance from a professional public relations firm will allow city employees to focus on their work tasks and not be burdened with attempting to defend themselves or their position in the public domain. Providing assistance in managing the persistent hostile negative attacks may provide some level of reassurance to city staff and managers. It's become untenable. We can't do our work. Our poor city secretary is spending all day providing public information requests, which is allowed by law. We got one today from information 4 years old that's not even relevant any longer. That's going to take hours upon hours to fulfill. It's just becoming burdensome, and it's affecting the health of our employees. So I just plead to leave the staff out of the political discourse, please.
In talking with a couple of the public relations firms, the city manager and I just discussed with, we're not alone in this. There's a lot of cities that are fighting the same issue with a very small minority of the people that are extremely loud and uninformed. And we really feel like it would be a great idea for us to do something that our staff just doesn't have the time to deal with, and that is to put out a lot of good public information about what's going on with the city. And looking at some of the things that they wanted to do, it would also aid the EDC in bringing businesses to here. Right now, I'm fairly certain that the intent of this Facebook group is to make sure that no businesses want to come to Gunbarrel City. I got news for you. If businesses don't come to Gunbarrel City, we no longer have streets, we no longer have police, we no longer have firefighters. We don't need a park board, we won't need a park. So, you know, we gotta continue to grow or we will die. It's just that simple. Without a property tax, and we will, given the difficulty of having to vote twice on a property tax because of the way our charter is written, I don't think you'll ever see a property tax in the city. And so we just have to do what we have to get what we can. But I do believe that hiring a public relations firm would be a good idea. Some of the things that they would be willing to do would be very informative for our citizens on a regular basis, more so than what we have the time to do. Do I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to take action to hire a public relations firm to address misinformation directed at staff and/or projects and social media platforms.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Vote from my right.
I have a question.
Oh, I asked.
We have a EDC website that significantly amount of money has been put into, and it seems to be dated. The city website is dated. Would this group help update this, or is this another layer of things that would be done?
I believe in the proposal it didn't list a website, did it not, Mr. City Manager?
No, this did not include, might include some posting on our website, but does not include upgrading or significantly altering the current website we have.
That is something that I know that, Mr. Foster, that is something that I wanted to address with council at the strategic planning session in June, was to update the city's website.
I will say that whether there's public information out there or not that disagrees with the city council doesn't mean that it's a total washout in terms of both parties. I think that the citizens have a right to know what's going on and be
Absolutely.
heard. And if they think that they're not getting that from the existing city structure, then there probably will always be this kind of repercussions. And I think we need to be sensitive to that. I believe increasing transparency and attempting to reach out to our citizens will go a long way toward alleviating a lot of these problems.
I believe this motion is intended to put that information out.
Yes, it is. Any further discussion?
Yeah, what's the cost? Y'all have any bids?
City Manager?
Well, we have two separate proposals, one from really a social media influencer, someone who actually professionally addresses specifically on social media, and that is $75 per hour. And then we have a detailed proposal from another company that all encompassing would be about $46,000, but I think there were several items in that proposal that wouldn't necessarily apply to the city. They might be more applicable to the EDC, but that wouldn't come from the city's budget. I think the city's interest would be in the social media forum more so than the mailers and providing the information to the public. It's really out trying to provide a positive spin on city operations and city staff's performance.
When will the council be able to see these proposals?
Well, we haven't received anything formally, so as soon as I get those formally, those could be easily provided and forwarded to all city council members.
Mr. Cora, could you take the podium? I apologize. I know you've not had any part of this discussion. But in the proposal, it lists some things in there like advertisements for the city, billboards for the city, electronic billboards for the city, and a lot of that seemed like EDC material. Do you think your board would have interest in partnering up with the city on paying for some of this?
I do absolutely think they would. And in the past years, we've definitely had billboards that were paid for by the EDC. So that's definitely something that normally would be handled by us, and we do have a budget for promotions.
Okay, thank you. I didn't want to assume. I know a lot of times that we assume the EDC was going to want to do something, and a lot of folks don't realize that EDC is really a separate entity that's just overseen by the governing body. So, like for matters for Pier 334, if for whatever reason the project were to, that is currently before us, were to fail, then the EDC can, they can sell the property to somebody else, or they can do anything that the property is zoned for, which is commercial. So, trash transfer station or who knows what. But it's kind of an interesting dynamic that we have with them, and it's been a good working relationship recently. So thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? No. Go from my right. Mr. Foster?
We're seeing take action to hire a public relations firm. My clarification of this is, I hate to go ahead and vote to hire anything that we haven't seen a proposal for. It's like not voting on 3 different port board members because they haven't been interviewed. I would be hesitant to support this and had to vote no because I've seen no proposals that will even address this, so I'll vote no.
Ms. Key?
Yes.
LaRue, yes.
Oh, yes.
Gause, yes.
Motion carried. Item 3A, public hearing on request to rescind the replat of lots 2R3 and 2R4 in the Harbor Lot Villa subdivision belonging to Mark and Andrea Burton, physically located at 111 Marina Drive, into one lot, Lot 2R3A, approved January 25th, 2022. We've had folks that came and spoke. Is anyone else here that wanted to speak that did not get to earlier? Public hearing is now closed. We'll convene into executive session pursuant to Local Government Code 551.071, consultation with attorney to receive legal advice on this matter. Time is 8:22.
hunger, you know. I said, if we faint from hunger, don't worry about us.
Reconvene into open session to discuss and/or take action, consider a request to rescind the replats of lots 2R3 and 2R4 in the Harbor Lot Villa subdivision belonging to Mark and Andrea Burton, physically located at 111 Marina Drive, into one lot, Lot 2R3A, approved January 25th, 2022. The time is 8:40. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Go ahead.
I make a motion to rescind the replats of lots 2R3 and 2R4 in the Harbor Lights subdivision belonging to Mark and Andrea Burton, physically located at 111 Marina Drive.
Second. Second all over the place. All right. Any further, vote from my right, please.
Yes. Foster, yes.
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Jaws, yes.
All right, replat's been rescinded. Public hearing on a request to replat parcel 4446, a 4.28 acre tract of land physically located at 1053 West Main Street, into QNC addition consisting of two lots, Lot 1, Block 1 being 1.70 acre, and Lot 2, Block 1 being 2.58 acres, and the remainder of the parent 4.28 acre tract. Public hearing is open. Is anyone here to speak on that? After all of that? Public hearing is closed. Item 3, discuss and/or take action to consider approving the replatting of parcel number 4446, a 4.28 acre tract of land physically located at 1053 West Main Street, into the QNC addition consisting of two lots, Lot 1, Block 1 being 1.7 acre, and Lot 2, Block 1 being 2.58 acre, and the remainder of the parent 4.28 acre tract. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to take action to consider approving the replatting of parcel number 4446, a 4.28 acre tract of land physically located at 1053 West Main Street, into the Q&R addition consisting of two lots, Lots 1, Block 1 being 1.7 acre, and Lot 2, Block 1 being 2.58 acre, and the remainder of the parent 4.28 acre tract.
May I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. City Manager, could you brief us a little bit on this section?
This plat was unanimously approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. This is for a quick and clean car lot, or a quick and clean, not car lot, but car wash.
Car wash.
This just puts it into a more manageable piece of property for the developer. This is going to be on next to, I believe, Taco Casa.
Correct.
Does the car wash pay city sales tax? Mr. City Manager?
I'm not sure if the car wash, if there's tax on a car wash or not, to be quite honest. I don't go and get my car washed. I wash my own, so I'm not sure.
Well, that's an important consideration on Main Street of any business we have, that they should be sales taxpayers, I think. So should we check into this?
Well, it doesn't affect the platting.
That normally isn't a consideration that we consider in platting a piece of property, whether it's going to be providing sales tax to the city. That would come with the request for the site plan and the request for the business itself. This is just asking to divide the land, and I think we're kind of limited to that decision.
Correct. If we so choose that we don't want a car wash there, we'll have that opportunity at a later date. Any further discussion? Vote from my right.
Foster, yes.
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Jaws, yes.
Item 3F, public hearing on a request to rezone Lot 7A, AB 578, El Navarro Survey, Heritage Cove, Gun Barrel City, Texas, belonging to Food Court ventures from multiple family residential district MF1 to planned development district PDs. Public hearing's open. Is anyone here to speak on that? Public hearing is closed. Item 3G, discuss and/or take action to adopt ordinance number O 2023-006, granting a change in zoning from multiple family residential district MF1 to planned development district PD for lot 7A, AB 578 El Navarro Survey, Heritage Cove, Gumbel City, Texas. Can you pop the ordinance up for me, please, ma'am? Well, let me dig it out. I'll read it. 3F. Thank you. I was almost there. Ordinance number O 2023-006, an ordinance of the city of Gumbel City, Texas, amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance and map is heretofore amended to grant a change in zoning from multiple family residential district MF1 to planned development district PD for lot 7A, AB 578, El Navarro Survey, Heritage Cove, being situated in the city of Gumbel City, Henderson County, Texas, providing a severability clause, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing a penalty of fine penalty of fine not to exceed the sum of $2,000 for each offense, and providing an effective date. May I have a motion to adopt ordinance O 2023-006?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number O-202-0036, granting a change in the zoning from multiple family district, residential district MF1 to planned development district PD for lot 7A, AB 578 El Navarro Survey, Heritage Cove, Gumbel City, Texas.
I second.
Have a motion second. Any discussion? Vote for my right, please.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How does this affect our ordinance, or is it done away with, that alcohol cannot be served within 300 feet of a school property?
That is a item that the property owner has already taken to the TABC and has gotten their approval, is what I've been informed of. So he was able to get his license through TABC. There was no objections to it.
So our ordinance is overridden?
That's something I'd have to ask the city attorney.
I thought you might ask.
Yeah.
I would assume, and I hate to assume, that the property owner, in order to get a variance to that 300 feet requirement, has to apply to TABC for a waiver. TABC, the process is then that they will notify any and all persons or entities, including any school districts within that 300 feet, that can then file an objection. If an objection's filed, then there's a hearing in front of the county judge in Henderson County. So the fact that if I hear you correctly, Mayor, that the approval of TABC has been granted, that means that there were no objections filed to the request for the waiver.
And yes, that is what I have been told. I have not seen any documentation on it at all.
Right. And that does, the TABC, because it's a state mandate, not that our ordinance is invalidated by it, but that is the state's way of saying we're going to offer some due process to someone that's close to that 300 feet, but maybe just within it, and provide, again, some due process. So, again, I can only assume the fact that that waiver was granted by TABC means that process was followed.
Further discussion? Hearing none, vote for my right.
Also, yes.
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Charles, yes.
Item 4A, second reading of resolution number R 2023-003, approving a renovation grant and performance agreement to Trout's Appliance LLC located at 834 West Main Street, Gumbel City, Texas, in an amount not to exceed $25,000. Resolution R 2023-003, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gumbel City, Texas, approving a renovation grant program and performance agreement by and between the Gumbel City Economic Development Corporation and Trout's Appliance LLC, a Texas limited liability company, and providing for an immediate effective date. May I have a motion? Let's see, that was just a reading. Item 4B, discuss and/or take action to adopt resolution number R 2023-003, approving a renovation grant and performance agreement to Trout's Appliances LLC located 834 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, Texas, in an amount not to exceed $25,000. May I have a motion?
I move to discuss or take action to adopt resolution number R 2023-003, approving a renovation grant and performance agreement to Trout's Appliance LLC located at 834 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, Texas, in an amount not to exceed $25,000.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, vote for my right, please.
Boss, yes.
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Yes, yes.
Item 4C, second reading of resolution number R 2023-004, approving a renovation grant and performance agreement to Trout Appliance LLC located at 834 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, Texas, in an amount not to exceed $25,000. 04. Resolution number R 2023-004, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, approving a renovation grant program and performance agreement by and between the Gun Barrel City Economic Development Corporation and Trout's Appliances LLC, a Texas limited liability company, providing for an immediate effective date. Item 4D, discuss and/or take action to adopt resolution number R 2023-004, approving a renovation grant and performance agreement to Trout Appliances LLC located at 834 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, Texas, an amount not to exceed $25,000. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to take action to adopt resolution number R-2023-004, approving a renovation grant and performance agreement to Trout's Appliance LLC located at 834 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, Texas, in an amount not to exceed $25,000.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Vote for my right, please.
Boss, yes.
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Yes, yes.
Item 4E, discuss and/or take action to adopt resolution number R 2023-005, approving a loan agreement and project by and between the Gun Barrel City Economic Development Corporation and YNS Services to provide financial assistance in an amount not to exceed $500,000. I still need to read the resolution, don't I? I know we've already had the second reading. I don't guess I do. But I would like to. Is this 5? Janet, is 05 in our packet? Okay. Let me find it, because I just want to make sure the bases are covered. 4E. Oh, thank you. Resolution R 2023-005, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, approving a loan agreement and project by and between the Gun Barrel City Economic Development Corporation and YNS Services LLC, a liability company, to provide financial assistance in an amount not to exceed $500,000 for economic development purposes and providing for an immediate effective date. All right, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to discuss and/or take action to adopt resolution number R 2023-005, approving a loan agreement and project by and between Gun Barrel City Economic Development Corporation and YNS Services to provide financial assistance in an amount not to exceed $500,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
One of our public speakers earlier today made a comment of questioning why does the EDC make loans to businesses at such a low rate? I'd like to ask our EDC director, is it our practice to try and compete with banks to make loans? Is that our objective?
No, not at all. We provide this money at a little bit lower rate as an incentive. It's part of an incentive program to improve businesses, bring new jobs.
Did a previous EDC and a previous council, and I'm questioning because I don't recall the exact answer, was it a loan or was it a grant to an auto dealership in Gun Barrel City a few years ago? Does that sound familiar to you?
Yes, it was a grant.
Okay. This is not a grant, this is a loan, correct?
Yes. This will be repaid with interest.
And I have absolutely nothing negative to say about that auto dealership. I go there and get my oil changed quite regularly. I don't know that we benefit tremendously in a sales tax environment from that business, but I do know that it brings something to the city that I think we need, and I'm glad that it's there. What might we expect from tax revenue incentives and whatnot from this, jobs, whatnot? What can we expect from this business?
It's projected, and all we can go by is projections, but it's projected to bring more than 60 jobs, full-time jobs to the area in hotel, maintenance, food service, all of that sort of thing. Of course, I think that it would bring community betterment as well and a beautiful gateway to our city. The projections say that the projections say that it will increase sales tax revenue. The project is projected to bring more than $8 million in revenue in year 1 of operating and rise to $12 million annually by year 10.
I might add that the 3-story retail space, I believe, provides an opportunity for our small businesses to further grow and also provide space for entrepreneurs in our city.
Absolutely.
It's
It's a great opportunity for that.
Mr. Clerk, if I remember the performance agreement on this project, isn't there a clause in that agreement that they are going to be buying most of their materials, construction materials,
Absolutely.
locally?
Before the project even opens, our city will benefit from sales tax revenue because the supplies will be sourced locally as much as they possibly can.
What was understanding to me was that even things that local suppliers didn't have, one of our local big box stores said they would go out and get it.
Yes, Lowe's has agreed to order specific things that are required by Hilton. They're going to order it through Lowe's and get that in for him.
Okay.
I have a question for our city manager. Recently, in the last several years, the bridges over the lake between the city of Gun Barrel and the city of Seven Points resulted in some purchases that were also contributed toward the revenue of the city. Do you have just a round estimate of what contribution that might have made to the city in form of revenue for tax on those purchases?
The purchases from the bridge itself?
Right, the materials to build the bridges?
I believe our tax revenue, and that was somewhere around $100,000, just our take in the building of the bridge. The purchase of the materials that were taxable during that construction project.
And if I'm understanding, Mr. Corr, what you're suggesting and what I've read is these materials would contribute something very similar to that. So even before this building is constructed and open for business, we would potentially already be seeing, or not even potentially, we would be seeing benefit immediately from just the purchase of the materials alone.
Most definitely.
I have a hard time understanding what the problem is with this development. In some people's eyes, it seems like it's just a gift that keeps on giving.
What is our current obligation to this project in terms of funds, and has it been met?
We're very close to having met it, but not quite. We did a loan for $500,000 to purchase property in addition to the property that we already owned that we're contributing to the project.
That was a loan y'all took out, correct?
Yes, the EDC took that loan out, the Southside Bank, and we've used that money to purchase additional property as well as to conduct studies, traffic impact studies, environmental studies, all the different things that are required to use that property for commercial use.
I believe at a recent meeting, it was asked, and you verified that the EDC had done everything possible under the existing agreement to make this project a go. Is that correct?
I'm not sure how you mean.
Well, a question was asked by the Mr. Krull that night. Has the city done everything that we're financially responsible for to make this project, as far as we're concerned, a go? And I believe the answer
The city or the EDC?
EDC.
The EDC has fulfilled its obligation in the original agreement that we made.
Okay.
This is a new resolution, a separate resolution.
Thank you.
One last question, Mr. Corr. Your board voted on this as well, is that correct?
Yes, they did. They voted unanimously to support this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corr. Any further discussion? Hearing none, vote from my right.
Foster, no.
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, no.
Yaz, yes.
Item 4F, discuss and/or take action to approve a sponsorship for the EDC for the Thunder over Cedar Creek Lake Air Show in an amount not to exceed $5,000. Mr. Corey, you want to come back up? May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to discuss and or take action to approve a sponsorship for the EDC for Thunder over Cedar Creek Lake Air Show in the amount not to exceed $5,000.
Second.
Mr. Corey,
Yes.
this is a sponsorship, and in return for the $5,000,
Yes. In return for that, we would get, I didn't bring the sponsor sheet, I'm sorry.
that's all right.
But we would get VIP air show tickets. We are mentioned on the radio show during the air show that there's a coordinated radio show that goes along with the planes. So we get mentioned on the radio, parking passes, yard sign. The yard sign we would put in front of the EDC to promote this event. They also will put up our logo on their website that stays up for the next year. And our EDC board had voted to donate all of our VIP seats to veterans.
Awesome.
Good.
Any discussion? Vote from our right, please.
Also, yes.
Key, yes.
LaRue, yes.
Evans, yes.
Y'all's yes.
Motion carries. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.